a research on factors affecting performance, intervention, and social interaction anxiety of hearing impaired students. Inclusive education is about how schools, classrooms, programs, and activities are developed and designed so that all students learn and participate together regardless if they have disabilities or none. Advocacy, support, and commitment are three important aspects that allow a holistic, inclusive education. Anyone can benefit from an inclusive education, even those who have hearing impairments. Such benefits include having access to academic, vocational, and extracurricular opportunities, building social relationship with peers or lessening social isolation, increasing confidence and self-esteem, and gaining the respect and acceptance from people without disabilities. This study will be using the Social Interaction Anxiety Scale, a 20-item self-report tool that measures the respondent's experience of distress in terms of social interaction. Experience is rated on a 5-point scale from 0, being not all are characteristic of me, up until 4, being extremely characteristic of me. This tool has been widely used to assess social anxiety disorder, which is the fear or anxiety about one or more social situations where the individual is subject to possible scrutiny. The general objective of this research is to determine the factors affecting performance and social interaction anxiety of hearing impaired students and intervention for them. To get this, the researchers divided the study into three phases. For the first phase, the specific objectives were to determine the content validity and the test-retest reliability of the Filipino version of the Social Interaction Anxiety Scale and to establish the inter-rater reliability of the assessors in administering Social Interaction Anxiety Scale. The researchers utilized a psychometric study design. The participants involved were 15 students with hearing impairment from grades 4 to 7 and 10 speech language pathologist researchers with either a college or a master's degree. This was conducted in the Philippine School for the Deaf in Pasay, and data gathering was done through administration of the Social Interaction Anxiety Scale. Inferential statistics were also utilized to determine the psychometric properties and the reliability of the social interaction scale. For the second phase, the specific objectives were to determine the association of enrollment to early intervention with performance in school and the association of enrollment to early intervention with scores with social interaction anxiety scale. The researchers utilized a cross-sectional analytic study design. Participants involved consisted of 100 hearing impaired grade school students that were divided into those who were enrolled in early intervention and those who were not enrolled in early intervention. There were 36 students that were enrolled in early intervention and 64 students that were not. This was done in the Philippine School for the Deaf in Pasay, and data gathering was done through analyzing the current grades of the students in school and administration of the social anxiety scale. Descriptive statistics were used to determine an association between early intervention with performance in school and social interaction and anxiety scale scores. Lastly, for the third phase, the specific objective was to determine the effects of music and play therapy in improving social participation of hearing impaired students. The researchers utilized a controlled trial study design. The participants involved were 50 hearing impaired students divided equally into an intervention and control group. The intervention group consisted of 15 male and 14 female students with a mean age of 8.60, while the control group consisted of 10 male and 15 female students with a mean age of 8.44. This was done in the Philippine School for the Deaf in Pasay, and data gathering was done through the administration of the Social Interaction Anxiety Scale and use of hypothesis testing. Inferential statistics were used to determine the effectiveness of play and music therapy in the social participation of the students. As for the results, for the first phase of the research, the content validity index for items of all the questions in the Filipino version of the social interaction anxiety scale were valid, as it all had a value of 0.78 and above. This means that all the items are congruent with the construct of the questionnaire and were deemed relevant by each expert who validated it. Therefore, having a total of 0.87 gives the Filipino version of SIAS an excellent level of validity. The test retest reliability was done by conducting an initial and follow up assessment of the SIAS answered by the same students. From statistical analysis, it was seen that the p value is 0.02, which means that it has a significant difference. The reason may be due to the participants not being able to give the same answers during the first and second trial. This inconsistency could be attributed to external factors like the weather and personal factors such as mood, which could have affected the participants and projected into the test results. This said inconsistency in all the responses gathered made it unreliable since it was expected that there will be no change in the responses at all. Therefore, it can be summarized that the Filipino version of the social interaction anxiety scale is unreliable in terms of the test retest method. The inter-rater reliability of the speech-language pathologist researchers was done through computation for the strength of their agreement. The strength of agreement was computed to be excellent for all questions as none of the scores went below 0.75. Thus, overall inter-rater ability and reliability of the questionnaire, which is 0.97, was computed to have an excellent strength of agreement. For the second phase in determining the association between the enrollment with early intervention and performance in school, a p-value of 0.07 was obtained, which does not indicate an association between the two variables. Using the correlation coefficient, a strong positive linear relationship can be seen. It is indicative that enrollment to early intervention is associated with higher general weighted average of students. The mean scores of the students who had undertaken early intervention is higher in comparison to those who had not. In comparing the results of the SIAS scores of children who enrolled early intervention and those who did not, a p-value of 0.03 is obtained which exhibits significant association between the two. Using the correlation coefficient, the strength of the relationship was obtained. It states that the relationship is inversely proportional, meaning that as the child was enrolled in early intervention, their SIAS scores go down, and vice versa. It is also indicative of a strong relationship between the two variables. Lastly, for the third phase, the results show that during the beginning, both groups of intervention and control had almost the same mean scores when assessed with the SIAS. The p-value of 0.75 states that there is no significant difference between the two. But 2 weeks after, the p-value became 0.04, and that states that there is a significant difference between the two, which is also seen in the graph. The intervention group, which is receiving music and play therapy, had lower scores during the second administration of the SIAS compared to the control group. Thus, the intervention group is more in favor of improvement in social participation of the students. In conclusion, a study was conducted to determine the content validity and the test-retest validity of the Filipino version of the Social Interaction Anxiety Scale. 6 experts were recruited to test the content validity of the questionnaire. The questionnaire was also used twice on 2 different occasions on the same population to test its test-retest reliability. From the analysis of the data gathered from these methods, it was found that the questionnaire stands valid but falls short on its test-retest reliability. There is a strength of agreement for the inter-rater reliability of the speech-language pathologist researchers, and it is rated to be excellent. Meanwhile, there is no significant association between enrollment to early intervention and performance in school. However, the study indicates strong positive relationship between the variables, meaning early enrollment to early intervention indicates higher general weighted average. Also, there is a significant association between enrollment to early intervention and scores with SIAS scores. Furthermore, statistical analysis indicates that enrollment to early intervention indicates lower SIAS scores. And finally, music and play therapy are effective in improving the social participation of the students with hearing impairment based on the lower scores in the SIAS gathered 2 weeks after. So, what is the significance of this study? This study will benefit not only the researchers but also the students with hearing impairment and their family, and of course, medical professionals like occupational therapists and speech language pathologists. Students such as those with hearing impairments, together with their parents, will be more encouraged to go to a school with an inclusive education since there are more benefits. Based on the study, students who had undertaken early intervention performs better in school and has lower social anxiety in comparison to those who had not taken early intervention. Not only that, the students who experienced music and play therapy had their social participation improved. It is through an inclusive education that there are various methods of learning and approaching the students in order to make sure that all students have an active participation in school, whether or not they have disabilities. The study emphasizes that inclusive education will give a better outcome to the students based on performance and their anxiety in social interaction. This allows the students to have a better chance in experiencing a good education, and it provides an avenue in increasing awareness for better education to a wider community such as those with disabilities. Knowing the factors affecting the performance and social anxiety of students with hearing impairments can help occupational therapists gain a better understanding of how services can be modified and or adapted to elicit participation and independence of these students. It would permit a more cohesive collaboration with the classroom staff in terms of what activities and interventions to give. For instance, if a student manifests with a high level of social anxiety using the SIAS, OTs can model and demonstrate the use of therapy techniques such as play, music, and other interventions that would be deemed successful in lessening their anxiety and other factors that limit their skills and abilities. Not only will it be beneficial for OTs, but also to children with hearing impairment, since they will be provided with the same and equal opportunities to reach optimal functioning, physical and mental health, and well-being, of course, same to those children without disabilities. On the other hand, it is essential for speech language pathologists to determine which factors may affect the performance of hearing impaired children in school. Knowledge of these factors and their effects may help SLPs devise environmental modifications needed to aid children gain optimal learning despite their hearing impairment. Also, knowing the association between early intervention and school performance may help in counseling and advocating for early intervention. This is because early intervention may be essential for the normal speech sound acquisition and language development of hearing impaired children. Determining the relationship of early intervention with social anxiety is also relevant in the field of speech language pathologists. As much as possible, optimal and maximal communication is encouraged for children. However, social anxiety may hinder in the child's intention to communicate or inhibit the child from receiving the amount of environmental stimulation required in order to have normal speech and language development.